This is Ivy Unleashed, a Gold Ivy production. Welcome back to Ivy Unleashed. Thank you for joining us. Today is the episode that you are going to be so happy you tuned in. And it's probably not exactly what you're thinking either, just like this book we just read. Welcome to Ivy Unleashed, first of all, Tracy McCubbin.
I'm so excited to be chatting with you guys. Really excited.
Yes, we need to talk about your book, Make Space for Happiness, this is not your only book, but Brooke and I read it thinking we were kind of going to get, how do you declutter your space? And it ended up being so much more than that. And so we are really excited to dig into how our space affects our mental health. And the way that you write with so many stories and examples and reasons why we do what we do is so intriguing. I learned a ton, and I'm so excited for our listeners to have access to you. And if they don't already know about you, to follow you, to find this book. And so first of all, thank you for taking the time to put these thoughts into a book.
You're very welcome. I have been thinking about decluttering from a different point of view. I've been doing this. I've been a professional declutterer for 17 years now. So I've really seen it all. And the thing that kept coming back is there were so many of my clients that it would be a reoccurring theme. And I was like, we can't talk about decluttering if we don't talk about the acquisition cycle. If we don't talk about how the clutter gets into your house, and spoiler alert, you or someone in your family brings it into your house. That's how it gets there. So I started to really look at that accountability piece, and then also the happiness portion of it, right? That we're all turning to stuff to make us happy and it's not working. So what are we trying to fill, and how can we find that happiness other ways? So I really studied the science of happiness and how to hack your happiness. And then the pandemic hit, and I saw people shopping like drunken sailors, just packages and packages. And I was like, oh, this is now a problem. This is a real problem. So that's what inspired me to Make Space for Happiness.
And it's freedom. This book is your guide to freedom, because it is the addiction to shopping and the material things, and I'll be happy when, and my confidence will be higher. And I speak to this because it's true for me, just like I know it's true for so many listeners. And before we get into the deep stuff, let's take it back. Tracy, how did you go from actress to executive assistant to now a decluttering queen? How did your career take this twist?
Well, clearly being an actress didn't work out. So that it was also not for me. I loved doing it, but I very early on was like, this is too hard and it's just not for me. And then I had this amazing opportunity. I was an executive assistant to two different people and I loved it. It was different every day and I got to travel, and it was problem solving. It was great. And then when I was working with my last boss, my last person I was assisting, I started getting calls from people that we knew, can you come help me, organize my Christmas ornaments, or my garage is a little messy, or my husband's business failed and we have all this paperwork. So I started doing jobs on the side, kind of not really charging, and then just charging a little. And I don't know, my little flip phone just started blowing up. People start calling and the word started spreading. And a friend of mine was like, you have a business? And I was like, no, I just help people. And he's like, well, that can be a business. So in 2007, I launched Declutterfly. And that was, I don't know, I think what I did it the other day, 3,000 clients later. And, I have 12 employees, and it just has been amazing. And then another key component, which I think really affects this, is that I grew up the child of a hoarder. My father is diagnosed with extreme hoarding disorder. So for a long time, we didn't know what it was. We just called he was a pack rat and he was eccentric. And then when we figured out it was an actual disorder, I did a bunch of research into it. So I have this unique perspective in that I have watched someone struggle their whole lives with their relationship with their stuff. And then added on top of that, I was very close to my grandparents who lived through the Depression and 2 world wars. And so my grandmother was an immigrant. So there are all these sort of other things, my grandparents were from Wisconsin and had a big place with an attic and a basement and were able to save things. So I realized that there are all these other factors in why we declutter, where we're from, how we're raised, our relationship to money, our family's relationship to money. It kind of all came together and made me really good at this.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to decipher, whether something's a disorder or not. Do I just have a clutter issue or do I have a disorder? So can you kind of talk about the difference between the two of those?
Absolutely. And that's such a great, it's so glad you pointed it out. So hoarding disorder is a true diagnosable disorder. The doctors have now separated it. For a long time, they thought it was a symptom of OCD. Now they realize they sort of run parallel paths. They categorize it as an anxiety disorder. So a bit like agoraphobia, that when your anxiety gets too much, you start to hoard. I think there's an addiction component to it. I think hoarders get a dopamine hit from the things they collect or the things that they save. And as in any addiction, when that stops working, you collect and you save more. So that's a hoarding disorder. You can have it on a scale from 1 to 10. And that's kind of different than the rest of us who have everyday clutter, where we get overwhelmed and it comes in. And a lot of times when I see people working through mental health issues, oftentimes kind of it'll look like hoarding, but what it really is a sort of a byproduct of a depressive era or postpartum, or when you just kind of can't get yourself up and going. But if people are listening, I want them to hear this. If you think you or someone you love has hoarding disorder, there's some great online tests. The SEMEL, SEMEL Institute at UCLA, I believe, has some fantastic diagnostic tests. So, find out if you really have it. Get a mental health professional, someone who's experienced in it. The treatment is pretty simple. It's called cognitive behavior therapy. It just changes. It's a behavioral change. So there is help. And also, I'm a resource. Always reach out to me. I can definitely point you in the right direction.
I always think too about like how, you have stories in the book, which I was saying too, like you can feel connected to them. And I even saw myself in a lot of things where I wouldn't consider myself like a, cluttery person, but it's like, oh, nope, I totally do that. And I have inboxes that are full of like emails that are like, oh, I might want that tip down the road, or, oh, that's a course I could do. Or I've got one of my shelves of books are just like books I haven't gotten to yet, but then I keep buying more of them. So I definitely know where I fall into my categories. But what's that like, having this just library in your brain of all these different scenarios? Like, I just keep thinking of the stories you must have and what that must be like to be with someone in that vulnerable space of their home. They're opening it up, and then all of a sudden I bet there's like that shame showing it to you. So what's it like walking in with someone and like seeing what they're embarrassed to show you?
I'm always so amazed at the bravery that my clients show, that they realize that the way that their home isn't working. It's not working for them. It's not working for their family. They can't, cook in their kitchen or sleep in their bed or get dressed in the morning or find their keys, whatever the level is. So by the time they call me and they open the door, I am just so in awe of their bravery and I just love what I do so much that it's sort of, we work through the shame pretty quick. Like, there's no place for it here. There's no place. As Brene Brown famously says, guilt is I did a bad thing. Shame is I'm a bad person, right? So we let's let shame go, feel guilty for 5 minutes, and then let's put ourselves into action. Because the best way to push through the shame spiral is to be in action. I correlate clutter and eating and food a lot, but it's like, okay, you overate cookies and you could sure lay on the couch and beat yourself up, or you can go, you know what? My husband and I did this the other night. We ate a big dinner and we were like, oh, we shouldn't have did that. And I was like, no, let's put our tennis shoes on and let's go walk around the neighborhood. We ate it. We did it. We did a thing. We have the ability to go and burn some of it off. Let's go. And so putting yourself into action moves you out of the shame spiral.
Yeah, I think of that depressive state too. Like Andrew and I always talk about this. Our number one go-to when we're in a funk is declutter, clean your space, make your bed, do something. And it has such a direct impact on our mental health. Why is that? Let's get into that.
I mean, clutter's just not good for us. There's a couple things that I love to say they, the scientists, I always imagine them in like little white coats running around. Couple things. First of all, our brains visually can kind of only see so much, right? So if you have a lot of clutter, it's like there's all this stuff coming at you and it raises your cortisol. It stresses you out. And I think a component of that is the fact that every piece of clutter is a decision you have to make. Do I want to keep this? Do I need this? Do I like it? If I keep it, where do I store it? So the more things you have in your house, the more decisions you have to make. And we know that the more decisions you have to make put you in decision fatigue. When you're in decision fatigue, which is what happens to the front part of your brain that makes the decisions, you default to making bad decisions. So when you have a lot of clutter, you're just constantly making decisions and it's exhausting. And they've really shown, which is interesting, that clutter affects women much more than men. It jacks our cortisol, it puts us in fight or flight. You know, we're learning so much about cortisol and what it can do to us and that it's not healthy. So women are really affected by clutter.
Oh, I love that you said that too, because I'm thinking right now of a few of my friendships with women who are like, how does this not bother them? You know, like, how can they sit there and watch a football game when there's a pile of laundry right here? You know, like it drives them absolutely nuts. I'm so happy that you brought that up because a lot of our listeners are women. They are moms. And there's so much that I could dive into with you about that. Like you mentioned postpartum and your confidence or wanting self-respect, you know, walking into a room and feeling like you need to buy all the clothes that have the brand names on them. And so let's kind of dive into that confidence and self-respect in women and like why we feel we need to have the skincare, the makeup, the brand names, the online purchasing to kind of help with that.
We've been marketed to. We have been marketed to for eternity, but especially lately, especially with the advent of social media, you know, that you aren't enough. I mean, just the fact that the term anti-aging, like to me, I'm like, anti-aging means you're dead. Like if you're not aging, you're dead. I don't want that. Like, do I want to look nice? Of course. Do I wear sunscreen every day? Absolutely. Do I like a perky lipstick? Sure. But this idea that you're going to fight aging, you know, and that there's just this images bombarding you about the way it has to be. I bring this up as an example lately, you know, and especially for moms, especially this feeling that you're not doing enough and that, you know, your house isn't enough and you're on top of everything, on top of feeding humans and getting them out the door to school and to work. And then if you're also working outside the home or you're working inside the home, like you have so much to do. There's this trend, I'm hoping that it's going away, of everybody decanting their laundry rooms, like putting their laundry pods in like perfectly matched glasses and all that stuff. Okay, first of all, it's dangerous, right? Because it looks like those pods look like candy. Like what? And then also it's so time consuming. Like I was with my sister-in-law the other day. She's like, oh, if I don't do 2 to 3 loads of laundry, they have 2 kids. If I don't do 2 to 3 loads of laundry a day, I'm buried and I will take me a month to dig out. So I'm like, on top of that, you're supposed to like decant your pantry. Your laundry room, it makes no sense. So it's really about decluttering and being organized is about making your home work for you, making your life easier, not how it looks. Caveat, you know, if you like the way decanting and labels look and that's, you know, that makes you feel great to do it, knock yourself out. But so many moms are in a position where they're compared to Pinterest. Like, you know, they're compared to photo shoots where it's like, that's not how somebody lives. That's how they set it up with lighting and a photo shoot. So I think it's that we cannot forget that we are marketed to 24 hours a day. We are told we are not enough. We are told that we need to buy things to be enough. And, you know, now it's even on social media, it's like, it looks like it's your friends, right? Because you follow your friends and then somebody pops up and you're like, oh, that's what I need. That's going to solve my problems. And my niece texted me about some product last night. She's like, it's saying it's going to fix all my blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, put the phone down. Put the phone down. It's not going to fix everything. So I think we have to remember, it's one of the things I talk about in the book, Make Space for Happiness, is we need media literacy, right? We need to understand when we're being marketed to and when, it's these companies' jobs to make money. And again, I'm not saying don't buy things, but you have to be accountable for your part in it. You have to be accountable for what you're buying and what you think you're fixing. And one of the things in the book I like to talk about is like really taking stock of how you are feeling when you buy that thing.
Yes. Conscious consumer is something that I'm working so hard on, because I can't go on my phone without feeling the need to buy something. And I know it's because exactly what you're saying. They're doing a damn good job of marketing. Also, I'm trying to save money so hard right now. And then I feel less than because I'm looking at these beautiful homes, and then I'm back in my own reality of how my home looks. I'm like, oh, if I just bought that, well, this would elevate it. And it's that self-talk, that spiral. And I know so many people can relate to that. So what do you recommend to stop that spiral?
Well, first of all, focus on this goal that you have. Like, I'm very big on focusing on the positive of things, not the beating ourselves up. Oh, well, my home isn't enough. It could be more elevated if I bought that rug. Instead, saying like, no, I've made this decision to save money for my goal. I want to take a big trip around, whatever your goal is. I want to save for retirement. When you focus on that positive goal and why you're doing it, it doesn't matter the other stuff. And it's the same with getting organized. If your goal is that you feel like you're a bad housekeeper, or you're lazy, or you're something, you're never going to declutter and organize, because you're just going to beat yourself up. But if your goal is, I want to get organized so that I can get rid of this outside storage unit that I'm paying $200 a month for, or I want to have an extra room so that my parents can come and take care of the kids, and my husband and I can, my partner and I can go out and have a date. Like, focus on a positive reason that you're doing this, and it's going to carry you along. So when you find yourself in the shame spiral, just stop. Know that the thing isn't going to fix it, and try and figure out what's really going on.
Yeah. And something you talk about that I love, and what Brooke and I talk about a lot, is awareness. And something that we also talk about a lot that helps with awareness is meditation. And something you say in the book that I thought was really powerful is this practice of meditation helps you with kind of like working out your brain. Mm-hmm. And it slows down that time from having the emotion to want to buy to the reaction. Like, if it's an impulse thing and you do it quickly, like, you need to know, like, okay, maybe I could work on my mental fitness here. I can get a little tougher, slow down that process. And so can you speak to that about how you suggest people this timeline of when you should actually purchase something?
This is great, especially ahead of, like, we've got Prime Days coming up. We've got Cyber Monday. We've got Black Friday. Like, we're going to all get in a tizzy. There are some like guardrails that we can put up, right? Like, it's a pretty high level of self-awareness to stop and say, I'm having a lot of feelings right now, and I'm going to meditate, and I'm not going to buy that lipstick, right? That's a pretty sophisticated. I recently went on a shopping trip with someone who was very triggering, as the kids say. And I sort of didn't take that into account. And I overspent because I was having a ton of feelings, and I was frustrated, and I was like, all this old stuff was getting brought up, and I kept thinking, oh, if I buy this, I'll feel better. And I felt better for 2 seconds. And then I got in the car, and I had like a shopping hangover. I was like, I have 3 bags of things. Half of them were on final sale. I don't even think I like them, And so I realized I didn't take care of myself before I went into it. So it's putting up some guardrails, right? Like, how are you feeling right now when you go into it? And simple things that you can do, like a budget. You're saving right now, which is fantastic. But we also like to buy some things for ourselves. So can you sort of set aside, like, I can set aside $25 a week or $50 a week to buy some fun things that's not going to derail my savings plan. Like, can you put some positive things in? Can you do some things that when you normally would go shopping or see a friend, can you say, can we take a big walk together? Can we not put ourselves in that situation where we're going to shop? And really, going into the holidays, I just talked about this a lot yesterday. Prime days, Cyber Monday, Black Friday, they can be great if you're buying something you actually truly need. If you truly need it and it's truly on sale. Because a lot of times they just mark the prices up right before, drop them down to what they really are. So they're not even really on sale. Like those outlets, don't even get me started. That's just lower quality clothes. That's really what it costs. There's no savings there. As we go into these heavy hitting consumer days, like make a list. You know what? I do actually need a new vacuum. Our vacuum's about to die. I've done the research. These are the two I'm looking at. These are what they cost now today, regular. Did they really go on sale? That's being smart. That's being a smart, conscious consumer, right? You're going to need to buy things. Things are going to break. But if you don't go into these holidays prepped, you're going to wake up with a huge credit card bill, right? So it's prepping yourself. It's consciousness. It's accountability. It's slowing down and also taking into account, like, what are you feeling? Are you going into the holidays, exhausted? Are you frustrated at your partner? Are you hating your job? If you're going into the holiday season with all of that, chances are you're going to buy more because you think it's going to fix something.
Yeah. And something that I love that you talk about in the book is, as a parent, a lot of times you don't have control over what people are giving to you or to your kids. And that's tough too, because it comes with the holidays. Like people want to get you a gift, and I hate them. It's like, I hate it. And I am not quiet about it. My mother-in-law, my mother, they know I don't want more stuff. I have 3 kids. Like they can't even handle all the stuff in their room. It overwhelms them as much as they love the moment of opening the gift, just like the mother-in-law and mother love the moment of buying the gift. It's fleeting. It lasts 2 seconds and then they don't play with it after that day. And if they do, it's like maybe once, maybe twice, And so I would love for you to talk about that and that connection that, they're trying to make with the gift and what that means and how to kind of navigate that in a sensitive, loving way.
This is fantastic. So a couple of things. One of my biggest goals is that can we normalize asking people what they want for the holidays? Can we this idea that like we're supposed to know and we're supposed to surprise someone? And look, every once in a while you get it right and it's fun and you find something, but a lot of times we get it wrong. We get someone the wrong thing or they get us the wrong thing. So can we normalize asking people what they want? Can we also normalize when they say, I don't want anything, believe them. Believe them when they say that. And, for grandparents, it is, one of the clutter magnets that I go into in this book. It is buying and giving gifts to get love, right? It is purchasing so that your grandkids will love you back. I have nieces and nephews and I, would go visit them all the time and super close. And I would always bring little gifts in my suitcase. And then one of the times I went, the first thing they did was like jump on my suitcase to get gifts. And I was like, oh, I've set a bad precedent. I've made this this is not. So I stopped giving them and they didn't miss them because they're just so excited that I'm here. So can we talk to grandparents ahead of the holidays? Like, look, they want to see you. They want to spend time with you. Can you teach them to make your favorite recipe? Can you go fishing with them? Can you build those core memories? Can you make that relationship? I was so close to my grandmother, so close to her, spent so much time with her. I cannot tell you a single gift she gave me. I cannot tell you. I can look back on the 30-some holidays and birthdays I had with her. I don't remember a single one. I remember cooking with her. I remember her teaching me how to sew. I remember gardening with her. And I know she gave me gifts, but I don't remember them. So I think that having a conversation with the family in a kind and loving way, like, we so appreciate you. I had a client recently who was struggling financially and was like, my kids are in sports. Like, these sports uniforms are expensive. Like, was trying to find a way to talk to the grandparents about this is what they want. And they're like, well, that's not what we want to get them. And it's like, she had to say like, but this is what they need. And this brings them joy. They want to play sports. And right now for us to buy those uniforms is a struggle. And then the grandma bought them and went to the games and like was part of the whole experience. So I think it's really having the conversation in a kind and loving way and saying like, I know you get something from shopping. There's something you get, but we're at max capacity over here. I mean, for me, I'm really thinking like ahead of the holidays. Like, I'm like, I don't need anything. Like, I'm actually realizing I need to send out my ahead of the holidays email where I say to people like, nothing, don't give me anything. Don't give me anything.
I want to circle back to the book because just the way you write is so beautiful. I just love it so much. But the chapter 5, I think, is just the most crucial chapter. It's talking about magnetizing big love and how that's all we want. We want connection. We want connection with people. And so there's no shame that you like to give gifts and you like to shop and you're trying to make a connection through the gift. Like, acknowledge that. But what you say in the book that's so powerful is if the gift is all about the giver and not the recipient, no one walks away from the interaction feeling loved. I'm like,
it's so true.
Think about like gifts that you've been given. Like, I can visualize Christmas where you're opening up and you're like, this, and especially the people who are like, oh, I got it on sale or that it becomes about their experience and everyone, and then what happens is you as a receiver, you're dissatisfied, they're dissatisfied. Everybody walks away like, ugh.
And you also talked about the experience of like, now we're on the receiving end, like we're getting burdened by your addiction to that moment of purchasing. Like this is about you having fun doing the thing that you're getting dopamine from. And then I have to have the burden of all the stuff. And like, is that really giving? Like, is that really like, yes, you love buying and yes, you love packaging it up. But if it's really for me, I don't want it. So maybe find someone that gets the joy from receiving the things because it's not me. And I want to just say again, like my family knows this.
But being honest about it, right? Like being true and kind. And, I have these friends who have a big family and sort of extended and all these things. I thought this was the greatest thing that they do. They all spend New Year's Day together. And I think there's like 16 or 18 of them with like marriages and, all the things. And now the kids are grown, so the kids are part of it. The kids weren't part of it when they were little. But on New Year's Day, they all pull a name out of a hat and they get one family member. And it's one person's job to buy that one family member all their gifts for the year. Everyone isn't buying for everybody, and they set a budget of, whatever you get to spend X amount over the years. So it evens the playing field for people who don't have as much disposable income. And it's like everybody, and then what really happens because it's one person, it's like, oh, I really want those new, blah, blah, blah tennis shoes or something. It's so genius. And they're like, oh yeah, no, it's just made it all so much simpler. And I'm like, great. People are getting what they want. You only have to shop for one person. Like you're not running around. I mean, you see moms like running around at the last minute, like, oh, I got a birthday party. Oh, I got to buy something. I mean,
we started that. Yeah. My boyfriend's family, we started that last year. And in the group chat, you just send your Amazon links and it's great because you're getting what you need. And it does make, going back to what you said of normalizing, asking people what they want. My mom, she loves giving gifts and she'll ask, what do you want? And so it's not filling my home with things that I don't need, but I'm still feeling her love. She's still thinking of me by asking. And she wants to start this thing this year, which reminds me of what you just said of, she heard it somewhere where it's something you need, something you want, something you read, and something you wear.
Like that.
You need to do an order that it rhymes though.
Yeah, I probably butchered it.
Want, need, wear, read.
Read. Yeah, that sounds a lot better.
You could also swap out wear for eat, something you eat.
Ooh.
You could do that too. Yeah. That's good. My husband my husband loves tinned fish, sardines and all that kind of stuff. Last year for Christmas, I got him like a giant box of all and I was like, really? This is it? And every day he's like with his crackers, eating his tinned fish, happy as a clam. And I'm like, yep, that's what he really wanted. And that's fantastic,
Oh, I love it. Okay, I want to circle back to the actual decluttering of your home because I'm picturing you going into people's houses and like this hoarding or just starting with a closet. Like, what is your system? Where do you start? Because I think that's what people listening really want to know.
So where to start is one of the biggest questions that I get. How do I start? I'm in overwhelm. Where do I start? So sort of before some hints, in my first book, Making Space Clutter Free, I have a whole section that is a work plan that takes you from the top of your house to the bottom of your house. Also on Instagram, I do these 5-minute challenges, things to declutter in under 5 minutes. And if you string them all together, you will do your whole house. And they're like, really like socks, coffee mugs, baseball caps, pool toys, and all of a sudden you've done your whole house. So that's great for people to know. But, you know, the first place that you start, which always sounds like the funny step, is why are you decluttering? Get clear with your why. Why are you decluttering? I want to have friends over for the holidays. I want to be less stressed. I want to be able to get dressed without crying. Whatever your positive reason is, not I'm lazy, I'm a bad housekeeper. Why are you decluttering? And then be real. You know, you're taking on a project. This is a project, especially if you're really deep in clutter. So how much time do you have to devote to it? You know, when is the best time for you? I don't care. You're not going to come home after work and after you cook dinner and do 2 hours of decluttering. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. And that's okay. You've done a full day. Do you have 6 hours of doing it in you? Or are you like, I got 1 hour and I got to tap out, right? So be realistic about your time you have. And none of this with judgment. None of this with judgment, right? Like, this is how much time I have to give. This is my stamina. And plan your work and work your plan, right? I'm going to give 2 hours on Saturdays for the next month. I'm going to take a day. People do this all the time. I'm going to take a whole day off of work, out from work, not look at my work emails. I've got some sick days saved up. I'm going to take a day and I'm going to do it then, because that's one of the biggest, not only is the decision-making process, but where does the time come from, right? So plan your time and be realistic. And also be realistic. You might need help. My older clients, this comes up all the time where it's more than they can do. And so great. You know, we need help. We all need help. And if this is difficult for you, you might need some support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think your 5-minute videos are such a great place to start, because how behavior change works is you need momentum. Right? We think I'll do it when I'm motivated. You're not always motivated. It's an emotion. Just like you're not always happy, you're not always sad. I always tell my clients this. And so what you need is that momentum. You start a sock drawer in 5 minutes. That feels realistic. That feels doable. Well, then you're already in the groove and you're like, all right, I'll just do this drawer next to it because I'm already in it. You get that momentum.
Well, I think the positivity piece is important. The positive why you're doing this. You're not in the guilt, shame cycle, right? And what makes this more fun? Like for me, you know, this is something I enjoy. So I always tell my friends, like, I don't enjoy cooking that much, but I do enjoy organizing. So while you're cooking for me, I'll organize your fridge or your pantry. Like, I am that friend. Like, call me up. Everybody has a friend that likes to do this stuff. And so, you know, if they're your friend, there should be no guilt or shame about your space. Let them in. Let them help you. Or if you're not up for that, or it's not convenient timing, play some good music. Have a good little tea, coffee, glass of wine while you do it. Play a podcast, play Ivy Unleashed, right? And then I think too, just your books and your resources are like, you're not alone in this. And like when you feel alone, there's so much shame in that too.
And, you know, I always think about a lot of decluttering and organizing runs a parallel path to eating and working out. And, you know, and I always think about, for me, when I don't want to go work out, like if I say to myself, oh, you ate too much, you know, you don't weigh what you, whatever the negative, it doesn't make me, I like rebel against it. When I remind myself how good I feel after, then it's like, oh, right, I want to do that because I feel good after I do it. You're never going to motivate yourself by shaming yourself. Never, never, never. And this is just another tool to help us feel better, to help us be happy. That's what this is. This isn't about shame. This isn't about how it looks. It's about getting your home to work for you so that life's a little easier and life's a little more fun.
I think too, uncovering what's underneath of this, right? And a lot of what you talk about in the book comes from a dysfunctional relationship where you didn't get what you needed with love, or you don't feel like you're deserving of respect without the accolades, right? It's like this enoughness that's underneath all of it. Like, if I have this, then I'm this, right? And so I think uncovering those feelings of, why am I doing this to myself? Or why am I putting this off? And like, for me, just to have like a personal anecdote here on what I do with the books and the courses and the tips and all the things, is like, I feel like I need to know everything and like have the resource on hand, because like maybe I'm not smart enough on my own without it, or there might be something that I need to know and I'll have the resource, the place to go to get it. But it's like, you literally have your phone that you can find anything on at any point, And so it is overwhelming me, and it's like another thing of like, I keep not getting to that inbox that I keep putting those emails away to. And then I feel bad about it. Or I see that pile of books that I haven't gotten to, and then I feel bad about it. And so what are your kind of tips on, that of like, I'll get to it when type of scenarios?
Well, also, let's back it up just a little bit. You're never going to read every email. It's just impossible. You're never going to read every email. You're also never going to read every book, because there are new books all the time. So if you are, I like to call them my information seekers, right? We're learning and we're bettering ourselves. You also have to understand there's only so many hours in the day, and there's only so many books that we can read. And that's okay. And there may be days where you don't want to read a book. There may be days, and there may be times where you say, like, I just got to let this go. I think it just goes back to how we want to parse our lives out, how we want to spend our time, and understanding that there's so much information that's just going to pass us by, because we only have so much brain power and we only have so much time. We're so hard on ourselves. I've really been leaning into this idea, and it's been resonating with so many people, like, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. Like, so many people will stop because they want it perfect, and then they just don't get it done. It's like, done is better than perfect. And by the way, what is perfect, right? What's perfect? There's always something more attainable. There's always something. And who's setting the standard for perfect? So I think that we just have to be so much kinder and gentler with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that goes back to when your space is organized and not every spot is filled with junk, you feel organized in your head and you have space for peace. Like, I think when everything is just organized, I can breathe and I can focus on being present in the moment with what I am reading or who I am with. And, I think, okay, I'll buy it when I have those moments of the impulse buying. Mentally, I'm not okay. Like, I need to meditate. I need to get out of my sympathetic nervous system. And so it's focusing on, what do I really want in this moment? It's to laugh. It's to feel peace and to slow down, to be conscious, is what I keep hearing as we're speaking this conversation, is like, just slow down and get to your why, map out a plan, buy the book.
Borrow it from a library if you don't need more books. Almost every library in the United States has it. And so you can, there's that alternative. But I think I think that the other day I was like running around, not getting everything done. Like, day was stacked like dominoes. I got off early, got off schedule, and everything was just a disaster. And I got home and I looked around. My car was a disaster, like a disaster. So not only was I running late all day, I was running late with like an old Starbucks cup and a water bottle and and I was like, let's take 5 minutes. Pulled my car up next to the trash cans in the recycle bin, like 5 minutes to clean my car. And the next day when I got in it, I was like, oh yeah, okay, great. And so when you realize that doing that decluttering and getting organized is to benefit you, not to how it looks or to show other people that you got it right. When you realize, I always say this, I think that decluttering and organizing is a form of self-care.
Totally. And when I think too, it's just continually uncovering, like, what is it that's stopping me from taking care of my place? What is it that I'm feeling that keeps bringing in the things? Like, what is underneath all of this, right? Because we can all rationalize that I'd probably feel better if my place was like decluttered, but there's something underneath of it. And I think, you talk about therapy in the book, and you do go at a really deep level in the book. And so I just want to, help everybody to understand that there is an even deeper level than we're getting to that Make Space for Happiness gets to, where when you hear these other women's stories of keeping a storage unit because she had a dysfunctional relationship with her mother and all she had left were the things, and it was the one thing that made her feel like connected to her mom. Like, we do these things from a deeper place. And so, first of all, I just want to say Make Space for Happiness will help you get to more connection of like what this could mean for your time, not just things like your time, your inner peace. And Tracy, I want to have you share where everybody can find the book and where they can find you, and if they want to follow you, where they can access you.
So book is available Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And again, if you're not buying books right now, if you put yourself on a little book, which like I have, it's available. Most public libraries in the United States have it, which is fantastic. I love that. The Audible book, which I narrate, if you have an Audible account, it's free. So there's a lot of ways to get the book. TracyMcCubbin.com is my website. I have a great newsletter. I also, if you sign up for my website, you can download a PDF of 25 things to declutter in under 5 minutes,
Ooh.
Which is a great starting point. And then Instagram is my big platform. I'm on TikTok too, but Instagram at Tracy_McCubbin. And I've also just started something which people are loving. I've started something called Team Tracy, where you sign up for text messages from me. I text you videos. So Monday is a challenge for the week. Wednesday is a little check-in. And then Friday, I answer people's specific questions.
Fun.
And it's been great. So it's $4.99 a month. You can do a trial for a free week or two. And that's in my Instagram bio. And people are really loving it. It's really fun because I'm answering their specific questions.
Love
That's
it.
so cool.
And something fun that we want to do with Tracy. Tracy provided a couple extra books. And so we are going to do a little giveaway. If you leave a review on Apple Podcasts about this episode, name drop Tracy in there. If you name drop Tracy and your takeaway or how you felt about this episode, we will pick 2 winners to gift Make Space for Happiness. So leave a review. And we will be keeping an eye on that so that we can get you this gift, because this book is wonderful and would also be a good gift for your fellow book lovers if they need a book.
Somebody told me, I love this. Somebody commented that this book, Make Space for Happiness, was going to be their girlfriend gifts this holiday season, that they ordered like 12 copies and they were gifting it to all their girlfriends. I was like, that's great. That's fantastic.
Seriously, the perfect gift. And you have been such a gift. This has been a gift for us. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, for sitting down with us. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much. I love connecting with you all and your listeners. And, I'm going to leave everybody with the, just ahead of the Cyber Mondays, the Prime Days, the Black Fridays, the holiday, Hazarai, just make a budget. Do a little meditation, just get real conscious about your consumerism.
I love that. Would you say those are your 3 gold stars? Because we leave our listeners with 3 gold stars. So your takeaways for our listeners. Or do you have 3 different ones you want to share?
I would definitely say 3 gold stars ahead of the holiday shop. Set your budget. Check in with yourself emotionally. How are you feeling ahead of the holidays? Are you feeling less than? Set your budget. And then, okay, this is a good one. This is so tough. You can run a spending report on Amazon. So you can go into Amazon and run a report of what you spend a month. And if you can do that ahead of the big shopping spending days, take your Amazon report and go through and mark what was a want and what was a need, and see how much you're shopping for things you need versus shopping for feelings. It's rough, I know, but it's going to be really illuminating. And if you can do it ahead of these big sale days, you're going to You're going to sail through the sale days. How about that?
I love it. And we have 3 rapid fire questions, our Unleashing Ivy segment. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, my question is your favorite organization hack.
Don't put it down, put it away. Don't put it down, put it away.
I love that.
That'll take care of 50% of your clutter problems. Don't put it down, put it away.
And if you don't know where it goes, everything needs a home. I would say, like, it needs a home. It needs a home.
Also, if you have stairs in your home, you'll get in a lot of steps. Don't set it on the stairs, which I do all the time. Just take up the steps. Tracy, one thing that you talk about as a clutter magnet has to do with your time. And you give examples of like people like constantly showing up late for things, and it's like this overwhelm. And I would just love for you to touch on how that plays into decluttering and your mental health when you feel like you're constantly showing up for things late and you're kind of underestimating how much time things will take you.
That's great. That's truly, there was a really big study a couple years ago, and a great article in the New York Times about how the majority of people who are late, the reason that they're late is not because they don't value your time, because they overestimate how long things are going to take. And I always say this, that when you're planning your work, when you're planning what you're going to do, you also have to plan in what I call the breakdowns. So let's say you're like, I'm going to give 2 hours to decluttering. Well, you also have to plan that your mom's going to call, and that's going to be a 15-minute phone call. So, right. So you have to understand that breakdowns of your perfectly planned plan are going to happen. If you're constantly overestimating how much you can get done and you're just living in like, I can't finish anything. So can you be calmer and more realistic about, let me get this done? And also, do you need help? You know, can someone come in and help you? Can you trade with a friend? Are you in a position where you can hire a teenager to, I was at somebody's house the other day and I was like, you just need to hire someone to like literally do your returns, go to the dry cleaner, like 10 hours a week of just doing these errands. And, we have a friend who has a kid in high school who has a driver's license. And I was like, $15 an hour, like pay them to go to the dry cleaner. And all of a sudden these whole set of chores. So it's about going backwards and reworking your relationship to your time management. Key to happiness, time management.
It's just
Brilliant.
Another example of what's in this book of like these things that we don't like, they just clutter our mind and our energy and our ability to be these like creative, present, loving people when we are stressed to the max. We're at maximum capacity and we're doing things that don't even bring us joy. I understand some things we have to do, but like such a great point of delegating and being honest with yourself about like, how am I really doing here?
Maybe you don't need to spend on Amazon that $15 of a want, and you can invest it in the kid next door to run your errands.
Yeah, exactly. And you're not I have a dear girlfriend who always says, you know how you're superwoman? You delegate. You know how you get it all done? You delegate.
Yes. All right, Tracy, last question. If you could go back and tell younger Tracy one thing, what would you tell her?
Do not waste so much time worrying if the boys like you. If they like you, you'll know. And if they don't, there's another boy around the corner.
I love that. All right. And the very last piece, Tracy, is your piece of gold, a quote that speaks to you.
Dr. Maya Angelou famously has said, when someone tells you who they are, listen the first time.
This is Gold Ivy signing off.
Listen to your truth and go chase your gold.